Okay. Hi everybody. We are up to learning about the brain. Very, very exciting part of the subject. This topic, I think I'm going to split up into 3 parts just to make it more manageable. Here we go. Alright, so let's think about what is covering the brain. Okay? So we have our skull, which is bone tissue. Then let's have a look and see what's under there. Okay? Now the brain is covered in 3 layers of connective tissue. Okay? So here is the bone. Under the bone we have something called dura mater, which is really tough. Then under that we've got something called arachnoid mater, and the reason why it's called arachnoid is because it looks like a little bit like a spider's web. And then pia is the last kind of covering. Okay, can you see the blood vessels snuggled in there? They like to snuggle in the grooves, yeah? That's why we have the grooves. Okay, so these are connective tissue, all right? Now, just so you know that these are the same 3 layers of connective tissue that cover the spinal cord. So there you go. You don't have to learn anything new because it's the same. All right. Let's have a look at the major regions of the brain that you guys need to learn about. Here we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and a couple of subcategories. The first one is the cerebrum. Now the cerebrum is like the bit that goes on the top. It's like a helmet. Okay, you've got the diencephalon and brainstem, and you've got like a bit that goes. Where's my hand going? On the top. It's like putting on a helmet. So that is called the cerebrum. Okay. Then sitting underneath that is something called the diencephalon. Sitting under that is the brainstem, and sitting under that or next to that is the cerebellum. So probably as a good kind of exercise, you should colour in these boxes to match this picture. That might be fun. So here's a picture of the brain. You're looking at it cut right in the middle, just to give you a bit of an idea of what it looks like in a human. Yeah. These are all the different divots. See the little grooves? That's where all the blood vessels sit and snuggle in. All right, so let's have a quick look. The cerebrum, which is the helmet part, let's just do it this way. The helmet looks like I'm doing like the Muppets. The helmet part, which is the top part here, is split into 2 hemispheres. So we have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. And here you go, and this is the big fissure, which is essentially like a gap between the 2 hemispheres. Okay, so 2 hemispheres and a gap in between. If I were to grab the brain and cut it like in a coronal way, which is kind of like this, like you're just cutting it like that, right, like a crown, coronal way, we are able to have a look at the other bits that I want to show you. Okay, so the first thing is, what are the gyri? The gyri are the mountains. Okay, so these are the mountains. And the sulci are the valleys. All right, and the valleys are there so blood vessels can go in there and snuggle in. Now the reason why we need the blood vessels there is because the cell bodies of the neurons sit closest to the outside. Okay, they sit closest to the outside and they need blood and, you know, to deliver nutrients, and they also need their waste to be removed. So all the cell bodies of the neurons sit on the edge and all the axons sit towards the middle. So the cerebrum, it has a layer of grey matter. It's like a strip. And then on the inside there is white matter. And the white matter is made up of myelinated axons. Okay? And there are things there called tracts, which means that you have axons going from one side or one hemisphere to the other hemisphere, and that's a tract, okay? It's just what, like axons going from place to place. All right, so we know what's covering our brain. We know what the different layers are. Let's have a look at the cerebral spinal fluid, okay? Now, this is what your brain sits in, okay? And it's used for protection, okay? And your brain kind of floats in there, all right? Now, is that made? Well, it's made by like sort of groups of cells, okay, neuroglia cells. They make it and then they spit it out into these places, little spots here called ventricles, okay? Now, a ventricle is like a cave that's inside of your brain, okay? So these cells make CSF and dump it in there. Now, let me just show you where it goes. Like, so it's made here and made here, and then it goes through here, and then can you see how it goes up around there? And then it comes down here, all the way down, okay? And then it comes down, like it goes washes all your spinal cord, and then all the way here, and eventually your CSF ends up in here, which is a big vein sitting in the middle of your, in your longitudinal fissure. And that goes into your vein. So arteries, veins, fluid out, fluid back in. Okay. Right, what's in CSF? Well, you don't need to memorize everything that we have in here, just to get an idea of what's in there. What shouldn't be in there? Okay, so if you've got a fungus growing in your CSF, you have a serious problem, okay? And the CSF should live contained in the ventricles and in the subarachnoid space. Remember, we saw that last time. The subarachnoid space is the space between the pia and the arachnoid matter. It looks like a spider's web. It should stay in there and not out, okay? So it shouldn't be on your pillow or anything like that. Okay, so it shouldn't be coming out of your skull or your nose or your spinal cord. That's not good. And remember, look at this, millimoles. Remember, we saw that in chemistry. Yes. So here's another picture showing how the CSF is made here, and then it goes all the way around and ends up in the vein, which is called the superior sagittal sinus, and that's a big vein in next to your brain there. It picks it up. Okay, like I said before, we have ventricles in our brain, and ventricles are like it's a cave system inside of your brain. Now, you don't need to know the names of all the different ventricles. You just need to understand that we have like a cave system, and that cave system is full of fluid. I do have a very cool 3D, oh no, it doesn't work. Wait a sec. Check this out. Just move this here. You should be able to see it when you get this file. Just make it a bit bigger there. Just make this a little bit bigger there. This is just for this. So this is a 3D model of your brain. Check that out, and you can move it around. How cool is that? And it shows you like where the ventricles are. Now the ventricle, oops, you need to drive it properly. So see that little thing that drives it? So see the light blue part? That's your ventricles. So you play around with that, it's pretty neat, hey? Very cool. And you can zoom in and out and things like that. And I don't know why it's not working there, but maybe it doesn't work in presenter mode. Okay, so let's think about something called the blood-brain barrier, okay? The blood-brain barrier is made up of three things. The blood vessel endothelial cell, and I'm going to draw that. So this cell here, see that guy there? There's one, there's 2, and there's 3. So those 3 cells get together and hold hands and interlock. Now that's going to make your blood, your capillary. So they are the endothelial cells make up your capillary. All right. The next thing that we need is the mass basement membrane, which is this one. So there's connective tissue sitting on the top of that. Okay. Now the other thing that we need in our blood-brain barrier is the little feet of the astrocyte, this guy. Remember how an astrocyte is a neuroglia, which is a supporting cell of the neuron. So the little astrocyte puts its little plasma membrane feet on top of the capillary. Okay? What is the point of that? The point of that is that we want to be able to control, let me just delete this. We want to be able to control what our neurons are exposed to. Okay, so our neuron could be sitting here, and say for example we have some bacteria in our blood. We don't want that bacteria to go anywhere near our neuron. So your blood, can you see how it's locked in? Very, very tight. So if there's anything that we need from the blood, it has to go through the astrocyte in order to get to our neurons. The astrocyte is protecting our neurons from anything that may be nasty in our bloodstream. Okay? So that means there's only certain things that can actually move through our blood-brain barrier. It's really hard to get drugs into our brain because of this, okay? Because it's so tightly controlled, okay? So alcohol can get through, oxygen, nicotine, and aesthetics can go through, but some things can't go through the blood-brain barrier, and that's a good thing, okay? Because it's designed to protect our neurons. So this little astrocyte is like, don't worry, neuron there, I'll protect you, and I will only let through things that should come through to the neuron and nothing else. Okay, so it's very, very cool. All right, I might just stop it there. I'll see how we go for time.